All right, we're going to get started here. Welcome to Lunch and Learn, the virtual Lunch and Learn with Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County's Family and Community Health Sciences Department. My name is Chris Zellers, and I am the Family and Community Health Sciences Educator here in Cape May County. And joining me today is Jackie Fusilero, who's going to be manning the ship here and taking care of all the information that you might need technically and that type of thing. Just as a reminder, the Lunch and Learns start at 12:15. Zoom does not allow me to do 15-minute intervals, but it does start at 12:15 and then it ends promptly at 12:45. So I will do my best to get you done by 12:45 so you could enjoy the rest of your lunch, maybe go for a walk, enjoy a healthy lunch or something like that. And we do have these presentations every month on the last Thursday of the month, except for June and November and December. So they're the only 3 months they're not there if you're interested in joining us. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to put it in the chat and I will address that afterwards. And Jackie will be monitoring in case there's any technical issues that you need to address. So once again, thank you for joining us. Just a little background on Rutgers Cooperative Extension, if you're not familiar. We are part of the New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station, and Rutgers is a land grant university, which means that we have cooperative extensions offices throughout New Jersey, and our offices teach to the community, and we offer educational support and information that is scientifically based and evidence-based. So what you are getting from us is information that's steeped in support that it is scientifically based. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is a partnership between the Board of County Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. We currently have faculty and or staff in 21 of the 21 New Jersey counties. So we're reaching out throughout the state. And we're composed of 3 different departments, 4-H Youth Development, Agricultural and Natural Resources, and then my department, which is Family and Community Health Sciences, or FCHS. And FCHS provides outreach in New Jersey and beyond. We cover topics on nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a slide that you can find us on social media, on our web pages, and other great information that if you want more of what we have, you're welcome to join us and check them out. And I hope that you do. I'll also give you my email at the end of the presentation so that if you have any questions that you want answered, you can feel free to email me, and I'm always glad to get back to you and hear from you on those things. Rutgers Cooperative Extension programs and materials are also open to all without regard to race, color, national origin, gender, gender identity, religion, age, height, weight, disability, political beliefs, sexual orientation, marital status, family status, or veteran status. This is the QR code for today's program evaluation. And if you open your telephones to your photos, you can hold that camera up to the screen there, and it'll take a note of that, open in Safari, and that will be the evaluation. And the evaluation only takes about 2 minutes. So I would very much like it if you would help me out and fill that out. That would be great. And if you do that, you'll be entered to win a prize. Let me go back a second. And there's also a link there that you can go to the evaluation as well. But we've been giving out some great prizes, cookbooks, yoga mats, stuff like that. So all things to keep you nice and healthy. I encourage you to fill that out and leave your email so that we can send you a great present if you win that prize in the drawing. So as you know, today's topic is tomatoes. And we're going to have 3 different objectives of this conversation. We're going to talk about the health benefits of tomatoes. We're going to talk about different ways to prepare, cook, and shop for tomatoes. And then we're also going to talk about preserving them and keeping them for the harvest, after the harvest, to enjoy in the winter months, if you're so inclined to do so. And I thought this would be a really fun conversation for today during the height of tomato growing. I know my tomatoes were a little behind in my garden this year, but I did manage to get 5 yesterday off of the 5 little grape tomatoes off of the vines. I was really excited. So they're so good here in New Jersey to enjoy, and there's so many benefits to them. So I thought it would be a fun topic for July. First off, I wanted to say since tomatoes are vegetables in their own right, they're going to be a nutritional option for a food to choose. But I just want to start off by tackling that question that comes up every time I talk about tomatoes or anybody talks about tomatoes. Are tomatoes a fruit or are tomatoes a vegetable? And little fun facts for you about tomatoes. Technically, they are fruits because they contain seeds. However, because they are eaten like a vegetable, like oftentimes we eat a vegetable, and they're prepared like a vegetable, the USDA, for their purposes, considers them to be a vegetable. All right, that notwithstanding, in 1887, there's been a lot of debate about these tomatoes. In 1887, the US Supreme Court ruled that tomatoes are vegetables there too. However, in the state of New Jersey, tomatoes are the fruit of the state, and in Ohio, so the fruit of the state and the state fruit in New Jersey is tomatoes. The state vegetable of Ohio is the tomato, and then both in the state of Arkansas, both the state fruit and the state vegetable are tomatoes. So maybe Arkansas pinned it down; they got both of it going on. But yeah, no matter what, they're good tasting. The U.S. U.S. and China are the largest producers of tomatoes, and I don't really care if you call it a vegetable or you call it a fruit. To me, they're great, and there's a great bountiful ways of enjoying them. So just some little fun facts there, because I know somebody would put in the chat, "Hey, I thought they were vegetables. I thought they were tomatoes." So yeah, they go both ways, but for USDA purposes, they're veggies. So why are they so good for us, tomatoes? Tomatoes are high in fiber, and fiber is a really important part of our diet for several reasons. It keeps our bodies regular, and it helps us to maintain a healthy weight. So it also reduces the rate of heart disease, diabetes, diverticulitis disease, colon cancer, and constipation. That's what fiber does for us. The unfortunate part of fiber is that right now, Americans only get about 15 grams per day on average. And it is recommended that adults eat 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. So getting more fiber in your diet is always important, since we as Americans fall short on that area. However, it's difficult to get. But if you're eating enough fruits and vegetables, then you're going to be getting more of them. So try to load up on your fiber by doing that with fruits and vegetables like tomatoes that are going to pack that nice fibery punch for you. It's great to add tomatoes to sandwiches, salads, wraps. They boost your fiber intake just by adding those little bits here and there. So think of that as a good way to add the fiber in tomatoes to help you eat more of it. And the fiber in tomatoes are insoluble fiber. So that means it moves through the digestive tract pretty much unchanged, but that helps move waste through the body and promote normal movement in the intestinal tract. Also, because of the lycopene in tomatoes, they're very helpful in preventing heart disease. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about lycopene in a minute. But the vitamins and minerals in tomatoes include folate or vitamin B. And vitamin B9 is really important for cell development, especially in women who are pregnant or plan to become pregnant. So that B9 from tomatoes can be very helpful to them as they're pregnant or planning to become so. Tomatoes also have vitamin K1, which is good for blood clotting, and there's potassium in tomatoes, which is an essential nutrient, and it's helpful for controlling blood pressure and preventing heart disease. One medium tomato has about 28% of the recommended daily allowances of vitamin C2, and that's really good for our immunity to help us stay healthy and fight off viruses and things like that. Tomatoes are low in calories, which is another good thing because they contain the fiber, they're low in calories, so they make us feel full as we go through our day and keep, we're getting a nutrient dense product with that. So that fullness from that fiber of the tomato. So let's talk a little bit more about lycopene. You can see here at the end, that's my last little notch there, or I guess emoji, whatever it's called. Lycopene has been studied more recently because of the popularity it received in the news media. It was one of those things that the news media picked up on. And lycopene gives tomatoes and other red and pink fruits and vegetables their beautiful color. And it also helps, like I said, with heart disease prevention and preventing sunburn. But that doesn't mean don't put your sunscreen on because you're eating a bunch of tomatoes, but it can help to lessen sunburn and prevent it, but you still need to wear your sunscreen. In the fall, sometimes I'll give presentations on seasonal eating. And, the reason that tomatoes are good, the different seasons when things are in harvest, like tomatoes are right now, they're coming to harvest right now in the summertime. And that's because they do things that our body needs during that season. So for instance, the fact that, the lycopene in the tomatoes helps prevent sunburn is because the sun's really strong right now in July in our area. So that's one of the reasons eating seasonal is an important thing. And, that lycopene will give you that sun protection or help with sun protection. Lycopene also has antioxidants in it that help to protect against free radicals. And too many free radicals in one person's body can lead to certain cancers. It can cause Alzheimer's disease and heart disease. So it helps with those free radicals, the lycopene too. And lycopene's ability to reduce free radicals has been shown to help with cholesterol levels, whereby preventing heart disease and lowering that bad cholesterol or the LDL, and helping good cholesterol, the HDL, to be better numbers. In a study published in PubMed, researchers found that the likelihood of premature death decreased among 39% of the participants who had higher lycopene blood levels. And there's been several large studies done on the benefits of lycopene preventing both prostate and lung cancer. And originally, these studies showed a very high percentage in the reduction of the number of cases in males. However, more recent studies have shown a lower number than the original ones. So, however, there's still a reduction being shown, just not as significant as the early studies show. So they're still showing it. It's just not as a greatest number as the beginning study was. It is also worth mentioning that often when a study is released showing good outcomes, like in the case of lycopene, the news media is going to pick it up and it's going to tout that vegetable or something else as the next way to, cure every chronic disease. But the truth is you want to make sure that you have a balanced diet. So to really prevent disease. So in other words, don't go out and say tomatoes are my magical cure for not getting lung cancer. You really need a well-balanced variety of fruits and vegetables in your diet to make sure that you are maintaining your health and helping to prevent diseases overall. So you want to get a variety of colors and a variety of types of fruits and vegetables to make sure you're getting the optimal health advantages that I've mentioned so far today. Other benefits of lycopene are eyesight, because lycopene helps to delay cataracts. It can improve bone health. It can improve, create better brain health by delaying age-related disease and reduction of neuropathic pain from nerve and tissue damage. So the bottom line is lycopene found in tomatoes, as well as the fiber found in tomatoes, make them a really good healthy option as part of your healthy, well-balanced, variety-based diet. I talked a lot about lycopene in the last, I see that Jackie just released poll 1. Sorry about that. We're going to release a poll right now. So if you could answer that as I'm talking, I'd very much appreciate that. So I talked in the last slide a lot about lycopene and how it's good for us and everything. But one thing to consider is that when you cook tomatoes, it breaks down the thick cell walls, and therefore it increases the absorption of lycopene for us. So that's saying that if it's cooked, the lycopene is going to be more absorbed. And raw tomatoes allow us to absorb about 4% of that lycopene. That's not to say that you only have to eat cooked tomatoes to get the lycopene, but it's more it's heavier in the cooked type of tomatoes. So that would be found in like tomato sauces and things like that. But when you're eating tomato sauce, you're not getting, that is broken down, also broken down the fiber in it, because you're not getting necessarily the whole tomato with the skins and all that kind of stuff. So if it's pureed, it's not going to have the fiber amounts, but it could have a little bit more lycopene than if it was raw, if it's cooked in a sauce. That being said, ketchup, I can remember, I'm dating myself, but I can remember when there was a thing that ketchup was a vegetable, and ketchup does have tomatoes in it, but you want to remember that ketchup should not be your tomato vegetable. It should not be the way that you're trying to get your lycopene and your other information or other nutrients. Ketchup is a tomato, but it has a lot of sugar added into it to sweeten it up. So it takes away from some of the nutrients because it's popping all that sugar in on it. So it's really a lot of sugar too. So in a tablespoon of ketchup, there's a teaspoon of sugar. So you want to keep that in mind when using the ketchup, even though there is tomatoes in it. It's got a little something extra there for you with the sugar. Not to say you shouldn't use it, just watch the moderation and don't consider it to be the most nutrient dense form of eating a tomato. The raw tomato in its whole form is definitely the nutrient dense way to go. And in any case, eating the tomatoes with that variety of different fruits and vegetables is the way to go. You can add tomatoes, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, to salads and your sandwiches, and really be able to bump up the amount that you're getting in your different foods throughout the days. So let's talk about that now. We can add tomatoes to salads. I have a list here of ways to do it. No matter how you slice them, they're good to eat. So you can add them to salads and sandwiches. Excuse me. Also, omelets is a great thing. In the morning, people are always saying to me, well, the recommendation is that you eat fruits, and half your plate at every meal should be fruits and vegetables. But that's really hard, because how do I get that at every meal? And breakfast is a little more difficult to have vegetables at. Well, then add tomatoes and maybe some spinach and onions into your omelets. That's a great way to bump up that vegetable intake in the morning. And another thing that is good to do, especially this time of year when we have great tasting Jersey tomatoes, is if you're eating out or even eating in, make your sliced tomatoes your side rather than maybe a potato, because they taste great, and it's a nice light addition to your breakfast meal. So you can have them sliced on the side for breakfast, if that's how you like them, with your omelet or your other breakfast food. Adding these into all these different places is going to allow you to add those vitamins and minerals and great taste to your food all at the same time. Soups and salsa are another great way to add tomatoes into your diet. You can also have tomato juice, of course, to get a serving of tomatoes. But remember, when you're drinking a juice, again, it's stripped, just like with the sauces, it's going to strip a lot of that fiber away. So I always say eat the whole tomato before the juice. A juice, it's fine to have the juice, but you're going to get a lot more out of the actual whole vegetable by eating the actual tomato. You can also enjoy tomatoes roasted with other vegetables. That's really nice to do. If you toss it with, maybe this time of year, the eggplant's coming about, eggplant, maybe some tomatoes and some other veggies, peppers and onions, and toss them in a little bit of olive oil and roast them in the oven for a side dish, or even your main dish. This time of year would make a nice late dinner or side dish. So think about doing that. Obviously, you can also fry tomatoes, which is fine. But just remember, if you're frying tomatoes, just like adding the sugar and the ketchup, you're taking away a little bit of the nutrients. So go ahead and fry them if you want, but remember that it could be a lot higher in fat, and it might be taking some of the nutrients out. You might be adding some sodium that way. So just use a little bit of caution, and don't make that the only way, I guess, that you eat those tomatoes. We're going to talk about canning tomatoes from your garden in just a minute to make soups and salsas too as we go. And I really love one of my favorite things to do is grab some tomatoes out of the garden this time of year and make a nice fresh salsa. You know, at the end of Saturday after the beach in Cape May County, come home and have some salsa. It's great. It's super duper simple with the food processor. And I will send you a recipe that has that post program so that you can make it at home if you like. It's just a few fresh, you know, vegetables from the garden, and you're good to go, and you have that great advantage there. So here in the picture, I thought that was a really fun picture. Last year, I accidentally bought an heirloom tomato, not realizing that it was an heirloom tomato, and I kept going, this tomato is a really funny color. So I picked that picture because those are some heirloom tomatoes. There's many varieties of tomatoes. Fun fact, there's a variety called Rutgers, which was developed here at Rutgers University many, many years ago. And it was the tomatoes that were used for Campbell Soup's tomato soup. So you can still get that variety, I believe, at different places. You'll see the Rutgers sometimes tomato. But these in the picture are examples of heirloom tomatoes. And they might come in many different colors, sizes, shapes. They might look a little different than a traditional tomato like you're used to. You can see the one there is almost looks like a pepper. It's so dark, like a purpley pepper. And we have some yellow ones there too. So there's different ones you can try. They might, the consistency and taste of them might be a little bit different, but you're still getting your nutrients from those. Most tomatoes, if you're picking those general red ones that we see, you want to make sure that the skin of the tomato is good looking. You're going to make sure that it's a deep red when you pick it. Also, if you're picking a tomato in the store or in the from the farm stand, make sure they don't have any blemishes or bruises on them when you're purchasing. But if they do, you know, usually you can cut around them and they don't go that deep. So, you know, you're not eating that part that might be spoiled, but you can check them out to be, you know, try to be bruise free. Also, if the tomato should be dense and firm, but you don't want it to be hard necessarily, because then it might be underripe. It's a little greenish and hard. Some of them, when they're coming out in the early stages of the season, you might find that. So you want to try to find ones that are that nice red color. And when you cook or eat tomatoes, they should always be washed. So you can eat tomatoes with or without the skins, but you want to make sure that you wash them. You don't need to use soap or anything. Usually if you're using a vegetable brush, you don't want to go too hard because their skin, the tomato is a little fragile because you could damage it if you go too hard with the brush. But you definitely want to make sure you wash them before eating them, both cooked and raw. And that's important to do with any vegetables or fruits that you're eating. I always use the example of a watermelon. So if you go to eat your watermelon and you're going to cut into the watermelon, whatever's on the outside of the skin, you're taking the knife through there. So you're going to put it into the tomato that, or the watermelon you're going to eat. So make sure to wash all fruits and vegetables well with some, you know, cool water, and use a vegetable brush if it warrants. But when you have a soft skin object like a tomato, just go a little easy if you're using a brush so you don't ruin that tomato. As I mentioned, I really wanted to talk about preserving tomatoes, and the main emphasis, I can't say this enough times now, the main emphasis of this is you really want to make sure that you are following directions exactly when you're canning tomatoes. Tomatoes are that one tricky thing with the acidity that you just don't want to be the person that makes, if you're giving them out at Christmas or something or the holidays, you don't want to make your family sick or your friends sick. So make sure to follow the recipe exactly. And this is, you know, the reason is the acidity is critical in keeping the tomato base preserved safe. Some might say that, you know, oh, my grandmother has this recipe she's passed down, we've been canning with it forever. You know, I think that that's what I'm going to use, and I do not use grandmom's. You know, our food supply has changed since then. We've discovered a lot with science, with food safety. So you want to make sure that you're using a recipe that's up to date. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you want to make sure that it's something that's based in science. The new recommendations we're following up constantly changing and making sure that they're science-based so that the food supply is safe and even what you're canning is safe. The science shows us that those pH levels in tomatoes are very different today than they were in the past. So it's important to make sure that we have them regulated and, not making ourselves sick. And there's a lot of different varieties, as I mentioned, than there used to be out there before. Also, the alkaline or acidity levels may vary on the variety as well. So to keep the levels where you want them to be safe, you should follow those recommendations from a trusted source on creating the correct acidity levels. And I'll give you those trusted sources in just a second. Salsa is one also that should be noted, as you should not change the recipe prior to canning. So if you decide, okay, I have all these tomatoes, I'm going to can them, I'm going to make some salsa, so I have this great tasting salsa all year long. But you really want to make sure not to change that recipe for salsa, so that you're not changing those levels, or creating, putting something in there that shouldn't be in there, adding extra things or anything like that. Use what the recipe calls for. And also, you should not add any cornstarch or anything to thicken things prior to canning salsa. But after you open the jar to actually eat it, that's when you can add things that you like. So follow that recipe, be clear, don't add things that you are not called for, because it could alter the alkaline and the pH levels and things like that. And it also could cause bacteria to grow. So we don't want that, right? Again, don't want to be the person making people sick. There's also differences when you're canning whole tomatoes versus pureed. So please be very aware of those differences and follow those instructions carefully as well. The upside to really preserving your home garden for harvest, enjoyment after the harvest, is the wonderful taste of Jersey tomatoes that you'll enjoy year round. And I'm going to send you some additional materials after the program so that you can have all that science information, so that if you want to give it a whirl for the first time, or if you've been doing it for a while, a refresher, then you'll have that in my follow-up email. So here's the list of do's and don'ts of preserving, and this goes for all foods, not just tomatoes, but you want to make sure that you're using a USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, a National Center for Home Preservation, or a university extension website to get your information. Because again, these are the locations that are going to be up to date on the latest science around preserving. They're going to know the best practices to use to keep your food safe and for safe food handling. Using any other source could easily put you and your family at risk by not having the proper amounts of things like the acidity, like I mentioned before. And also, for the do's and don'ts list, please make sure not to use blogs or sites that alter the change of the tested recipe, because that could get you in a little bit of trouble too. So you want to make sure that, again, it's a .gov or a .edu site. The USDA or National Center for Home Food Preservation are the ones you want to check out there. Let's see, make sure you don't use recipes that have been handed down, as I said before, because they might not be accounting for the proper acid levels and things like that. And then also, reminder that our food supply has changed so much since grandmoms or Aunt Dolly's or whoever have handed that down to us. Check out at the bottom there of the slide, it says .gov or .edu sites, because they're trusted sources and they're the ones that we want to use. Additionally, canning and preserving of any fruit or vegetable means that you want to make sure to use ripe, undamaged produce. So it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be using the stuff that fell off the vine and is laying on the ground. You don't want to use that kind of stuff. If it's too icky to eat, then it's too icky to can. We don't want to do that. We want to go for the best quality produce so that we have the best quality canned product when we do that. So I see here, Jackie had released the second poll, and Jackie, if there's a first poll, if there's a second poll, if you could release that now, that would be awesome. And here again is the presentation evaluation form. So you can hold up your phone, or we will send it to you post program so that you can fill out the evaluation. It really only takes about 1 to 2 minutes to fill that out and give us your feedback, and very much appreciate that. And then we will also send a follow-up email in that follow-up email with this link and QR code. We'll also send you some additional information on canning and recipes so that you can enjoy them at home yourself. Excuse me. A lot of lessons today. I'm getting a little hoarse already. So this is my contact information. As I said early in the presentation, I'm always glad to get emails from everyone asking questions and helping to find more information. So I will gladly do that for you if you email me. There's our website there, and also our FCHS website, and then the Cooperative Extension website and our Facebook handles if you would like to contact us. Here's the references that I use for today's presentation. I'm going to go back to the slide for the contact information. And I did want to say, if you go onto our website for the FCHS website there and the RCE website, we have a new walking guide that was just released. We have copies of the extension building if you want to come out. It's Walk Cape May County. We have all the different trails throughout the county, their links. And then there's also information on tips on walking and getting started walking or continuing to walk and getting that exercise in. So please stop by our extension office if you're interested in getting one. Email us. We can drop one in the mail to you if you like, and we'll be happy to get them out. And they're going to be distributed throughout the county, so you can look for them if you're interested in getting one. And I think that is about time, but if there is any questions, let's see if there's any, hold on a second, I'm gonna stop sharing. I don't see any questions in the chat, but like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and have a great day. Go out for a walk in Cape May County. Thanks, take care.